These are some pens. I'm going to be doing a little video of 6 pens to show the person who's going to be receiving these in the mail how they write. These are going to Waski Squirrel. Come on, pen. What's wrong with you? And he's going to play around with them, I think, and if he wants, he might want to buy some of them. This is a Parker. This is sort of a Challenger thing, though I don't see it written anywhere. But it had a nice, what I would call a fine nib. So what I'm going to do is sort of write like he does and also write like I do. And I'm not trying to teach him that he has to write like I do, but I'd like him to copy the lines I'm making. I'm going to leave half the page empty so he can write on the same page. The problem is now I'm getting oils on the page, so I don't want that. So this is a Parker, the Parker Challenger, black Parker Challenger. Oh, Kitty, you can't be here. Kitty, no, down, down. Sorry, Waski. So Waski uses lined paper, and I don't really know how close his lines are, but he usually writes and stays within the lines, so I'm going to try to do the same kind of thing. It looks like he holds the pen pretty vertically. You know, I don't see his hand going this way. I see it more like this. And his letters are pretty vertical. So I'm going to try to imitate kind of how he does it. So Parker Challenger. One of the other things he does smear tests and how wet it writes, and I'm not going to bother with that, but I will do the reverse writing. And some of these pens work well reverse, some of them are less well. And reversing a pen, turning it upside down like this, usually gives you a finer line, and it doesn't allow for any pressure to be put on it, so you really do have to write very lightly. Often when you flip it over like this, it feels scratchier. And some of them do that and some of them don't. There are certain pens that I have, when I write upside down, I sort of have to hold the pen to the side because it seems to want to go that way. So anyway, one of the things I'm a little bit unsure about is how much pressure Waski uses. The pens he uses are mainly modern, and modern pens tend to have broader nibs than older pens. So some of his heavy line work might be as a result of the modern pens rather than his heavy-handedness. But I'm going to write, this is sort of heavy. I'm sort of really pressing down, even on the side, the thin strokes I'm pressing down, but normally I almost lift up on the pen to get a really, really fine line. So whether he's doing that or not, I don't know. Why is this skipping? This shouldn't be skipping. It might be just because I'm dipping it here. But Waski, what I'd like you to do as well, and you're going to play with this side of the page. I'm going to leave that blank on each of these for you. I'd like you to sort of do this. Just make big scribbles and take the pen out on the highway. This isn't quite going up and down the driveway, but almost. You're sort of, when anyone writes small, you don't give enough room for it to press down. I mean, if I were to write small and press down like that, this takes a lot of, this pen can make a line that's that thick. So what I'll do as well is to give you the range of the line. So this is thick, this is thin. So I want you to sort of do the same thing. Pull it straight down and press down to get that thickness. Don't go further than that. Anyway, flip it upside down, try reverse writing. Really try to write not only as large as I'm writing, but also try to write as fast as I'm writing. Now some of this is skipping a little bit, and I don't think it's the pen. I think it's more the paper at the moment, or maybe the ink. But try it out. So this is the Parker Challenger. There's my half, and here's your half. You get to write over here. Play around with that. So there's one down. And hopefully this is a button fill, by the way. You have a dual fold that works the same way. So that should be, and I'll make sure all of these have sacks in them and are ready to go. We'll stick with Parker's. This is a Parker 21 Special. Parker 21s that have a larger opening down there are the standard Parker 21s. The 21 Specials looked more like a 51 from below. They still had the same clutch and the same kind of cap, but they just had a larger opening. So the 21 Specials, which is what this is, it's not marked for some reason. Sometimes they say 21 Special. A 51 Special, by the way, is a 51 with a steel nib. So the 51 Special and the 21 Special are really pretty close together. So Parker. Now this one, 21 Special. A 21 and a 51 sometimes takes a while to start going because of the feed system has this comb that has to really fill up with ink before it really starts flowing well. This one, right side up, it says sort of a big blobby Johnny One Note kind of a nib. It's a little bit finer on the upstroke, a little less fine on the downstroke, and again we're skipping a little bit. I think maybe my ink is bad, or it's just, again, takes a while for this pen the ink to fill in all the little grooves. To reverse writing, there's a big difference between this. This is sort of like writing with two complete pens, a fine nib and a broad nib. So this is probably the one that has the largest diversity between fine and broad. Now I'm not pressing down very hard doing the reverse. Here I'm pressing down a little bit harder, but don't press down hard when you write reverse. You really have to write. I think, again, I should have just waited a little tiny bit or maybe filled these pens up, but I'm putting them in the mail, so I didn't want to have ink in them. So what I'd like you to do, Waski, is to fill them up with Waterman ink or Parker ink, and just use the same ink on all of them, and just use, for lack of a better ink, use black, just because then you're dealing with apples to apples, you don't have to compare ink colors, because that's going to change the way you look at a pen. I mean, you'll say, oh, that's a pretty color, or that's not a pretty color, that's an ugly color, therefore the pen is ugly. Not that you would do that, Waski, but some people do. They don't look at the actual thing. I once worked with this wedding group, with wedding industry people, and a dress designer told me, which makes perfect sense, they like to keep their dresses on mannequins because, when you're looking at a dress and it's on a humanoid, you're looking also at the humanoid, and maybe you don't like blondes, and therefore I don't like that dress because all I see is the blonde. So here, if you don't like red, you really like blue, well, black is a neutral tone, so it's also the tone that gives you the most contrast if you're writing on light paper of any degree of lightness. You're never gonna only, white ink on black will be as contrasty. So try to write fast and write big with all of the pens I'm showing you. I don't have to tell you this over and over and over again. And again, a 51, whenever I sell 51s or 21s, what I do normally is I fill them up with water, try to rinse out as much water, shake it out like a, hold it tightly and shake it out like a thermometer, shaking down a thermometer just to get as much of the liquid out, and fill it up with ink and let it sit for an hour or two just to fill up all of the little teeth and grooves and feed in the collector of a 51 or a 21. And once that's completely immersed in ink, it should write perfectly well. It shouldn't skip at all, but if you don't do that, it really takes a good long time to make that happen. Markers. Okay. I have 2 Schaefers and 2 Walls. This Schaefer is a Triumph nib. Kitty, you're in the light. Schaefer Triumph. This is the one this is a very stiff nib, Triumph. UMPH, Triumph nib. This is another pen that is made, it's actually designed, the nib is designed for this reverse writing. This has an upturned snout on the nib. The nib looks sort of like this. And there's a little tiny bit of an upturn there, which makes it really, really comfortable for lefties as well as for really anyone. They're very smooth because there's just trust me, they're very smooth. They're very, occasionally you can find a Triumph nib that has a little bit of flex, and sometimes very, very occasionally you can find one that has a lot of flex, but those are very rare and very valuable. This is a standard one, and it writes Johnny one note. There's no variety. There's even less variety on this between up and down than the Parker 21 I just showed you. These are great for reverse writing. This is slightly thinner on the upside down. It's also very smooth. As smooth, I guess, as the 21, but Kitty, no. No. Here, stay here, Kitty. Don't you dare grab me. And again, let's hope this doesn't skip. So again, Waski, what I want you to do is write big and scribble and just see how the pen, these pens that don't have a lot of flex are not gonna change much. But one of the things you'll find, I think you'd find, if you did this with modern pens, sometimes they'll start skipping because the feed is not flowy enough. I've found modern pens don't like to keep up very well, but these all have really nice flowy inks, flowy feeds. This particular pen has a rubber sack and a lever in it, and these pens often just do not line up the way we like them to. We want that lever to be right there, but this has a little tiny extra turn, which we don't generally like. And sometimes I can, switch them around, find a different barrel and try it on, and they might work, but unfortunately this one is just one of those that doesn't seem to want to do that very well. This also is engraved with the name R-A-P-E is the last name, Rape, which is not very attractive, I must say, but maybe that's not rapé, but it's, anyway, ignore that if you can. Okay, this one seems to be skipping too, but again, I think it just, with all of these pens, Waski, fill them up with water, empty the water, shake them out, fill them up with the ink you want to use, which I recommend to be either Waterman or Parker, Schaefer, an ink that's for fountain pens it's made by Parker, Schaefer, Waterman. I don't want Noodler's ink in here. I don't want, you know, I really would prefer if you can, you know, Waterman, you know, Parker Blue Black you can put in there. You know, use Parker, Schaefer, Waterman inks. I trust them, and that's what sort of is in this pen, so you don't have to worry about chemicals mixing and exploding. Okay, the other Schaefer is a Schaefer, I think this is a touchdown, so this one fills by pressing down on this. That squeezes air pressure on the rubber sac, and it fills on the downstroke. And I'm pretty sure this fills, sometimes these things need an extra sac, a rubber O-ring in it, but let's hope this one doesn't. Schaefer, red. This is a 33, I guess. This one has the finest nib. Now I'm writing down, I'm applying pressure like you might, flipping it upside down. I'm not applying pressure, but I'm writing. Again, if I apply pressure, it's not going to work. It's going to be very scratchy, and I don't want that. So this one, though, has a little tiny bit of flex, but it's very fine. This is the finest of all of them, and I know that you like fine nibs, and again, it's skipping a little bit, and again, I don't know if it's this paper. It's not skipping on this. Why is it skipping on this? No, it's not now, so it just needed to get, you know, I tend to, you know, dip pens and, you know, let a bunch of people try them out at the pen show, and then I put them in a drawer and I forget about them, and then, you know, I don't wash them out, which is what I should do, but I don't, and the ink might dry up in the feed, so it does take a little bit of time to get the ink, the dried ink, loose and out of there. But this is really a nice fine nib, and you know, if you go to a pen store and buy the most modern fountain pen you can find, Kitty, get out of the way, you will, their fine nib will be, you know, maybe like that. And you know, this one, I just, by not applying pressure, you know, I'm getting a finer line than if I apply pressure. This, from barely, the weight of the pen, I mean, there are ads for Feather Touch, which maybe is what this is, but anyway, the weight of the pen should make a line, which is what it's doing when I can actually move the pen. It does make a line, so you don't have to apply pressure. So a lot of the time, you know, lifting up on the pen against the paper is going to give you this really fine line. Of course, how can you lift up and write at the same time? Well, you can't. But anyway, this pen can make a line that's, I mean, don't make a line thicker than any of the lines that you see on these things, because that's pressing down too much. But these pens are really great. It took me a long time to like them because they're so fugly, they're so plain, but they have really, really nice nibs. Schaefer, ever sharp. Okay, this, no, I can see that one of the reasons that these pens are dried out is because I uncapped them last night to take a picture of them, and I left them uncapped, so of course they dried out. Skyline. This one has the wettest nib, Eversharp Skyline, and it's also pretty flexible. It starts out loud and it gets louder. So here to there. It's really a nice, juicy, wet nib. May take a while for this to dry. So again, to press down, I'm applying pressure most of the time. Reverse writing, this is probably not a pen that I would do much reverse writing with because it is so flexible, and I would hate to chance ruining the nib by applying even the smallest amount of pressure to it because it may screw it up. Really nice. There's no railroading here. It's really pretty damn sweet. So you'll have fun with this one. This is the pen you'd write the angry letter to the editor about something that's happening in North Dakota. I don't know what. Dear editor, I'm very upset about the tornadoes that you keep having. So anyway, have fun with this one. This is the one that I think you're gonna enjoy writing with the most because of its wet, the wetness. Pardon me. Finally, the last pen is another wall. This one is a lady's pen. It has a little ring on the top, and it's made of hard rubber. This is the only one that's made of hard rubber. Looks like wood grain. It has a very, this one might seem scratchy to you, wall. Wood grain. This is the pen this might provide a little bit. I may have to tweak this nib a little bit. So the nib is a little bit loose in here, which is maybe why it was making that noise. Come on, pen. Well, it may seem a little scratchy, but we'll just pretend that's supposed to do that. This one, to write down with pressure, you get this sort of range. I'm sort of pressing down as much as I think you do. I would not, you can write upside down, but it's very scratchy and I wouldn't recommend it. So, no reverse writing. This one has when you barely touch the paper, when you write fast, you do get a very nice thin, and you get a nice broad pen. So this one has the most range, from fine line to broad. A little bit of railroading. Kitty, you have to get out of the way. Go. I think you'll really have fun with this one. I don't know if you're going to have fun writing small with it. Writing big is fun. Taking it on the highway is good. On the city streets of school zones of a town in North Dakota, maybe not. It doesn't have as much, but you can. I mean, it is flexible. You can. I'm pressing down now a little bit more, and it does, when you add pressure, you have to add more pressure on this one than the other wall, than the Skyline. But I think all of these these will all make you smile to a degree. This one might be a little tiny bit scratchy-er sounding and feeling. And how these are going to write on your paper, I don't know. Your paper might have more of a tooth to it. It may be more fibrous. So that's why I'm giving you half the blank page, to see if you can sort of imitate some of this on this side. So there you go. So these are all going to go off to you in the mail tomorrow. You'll get them in the next couple of days. And have fun with them for a couple of weeks. I'd love to see what you think of them. And you don't have to count. You can do these outside of your normal journal as not to besmirch your very logical way of doing things. Maybe if you decide to buy one or more of them, you can then officially do them. But I'd like to see how you play with them, and maybe it might be fun. Just a suggestion. Maybe you can not try them out until you actually turn the camera on. You'll get your first reactions, not after you've had a time to play with them, but just to see what your gut reactions are when you try them the first time. Just it's fun when I show pens to people. Their first reaction to a pen is really sort of interesting to me to watch and to listen to, because I can hear them in the way the pen sounds on the paper, or the way, if they actually open up their mouth and say something. It's really important for me to hear what they say. Oh, this is really scratchy. Oh, I love this one, or whatever. After they've written with it for a half an hour and I ask them something, let's say I didn't hear them, they may have a completely different, more thoughtful response rather than the shock and surprise, which sometimes is nice to hear. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. This one railroads a bit, and I think it's just because it's not filled up. All of these are lever fills with the exception of the touchdown and the button fill. The button fill, you know how to work. The touchdown, this one fills, there's a little rubber sack on the inside of this pen. It's inside of this thing. And there's a little rubber O-ring here. And what you do when you push down, it squishes the air pressure, causes the condensed air pressure causes the rubber sack to squeeze. So when you fill it, you push down, count to 3, and then take it out of the pen. You don't fill it by pulling it back. That does nothing. And I can hear that it's slurping. It wants to slurp the ink up. So this will be fine. So unscrew it, pull it out, put it in the ink, press down kind of quickly. You have to hold this kind of tightly while you do it. And then screw this down and it should be fine. So I think you're gonna enjoy all of these pens. I mean, I can tell you, I know you're gonna enjoy all of them. If I sent you 100 pens, you'd enjoy all of them, because you're a very democratic pen lover. Okay, the cat's back for the last time. Okay, so it's time for me to pay attention to him. So, Waski, have fun. I look forward to hearing and watching and listening to your commentary on these 6 pens.